Hey there folks, welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art and culture, and this is Billboard Breakdown. You know, there's an adage that I have on this show that the Canadian charts are always better. Mostly because we didn't get rid of rock radio, we at least try to cultivate more unique Canadian acts. We get more variety up here. And yet, if we look at the 2016 Hot 100, which many of the critics are already claiming is one of the worst years on record for this decade, it's really been dominated by two Canadian artists coasting more off production than any sort of lyrical or vocal personality. Gee, can you think of which ones? Now, I can make the argument that we as Canadians tend to manufacture some distance with our stars. Drake and Justin Bieber have both been bigger south the border than they have been up here, but on the other hand, we did let Justin Bieber debut at number 1 this week, where he only landed number 2 on the Hot 100, so take it where you will. Granted, he didn't get to the top alone, but I'm getting ahead of myself, so let's talk about our top 10. At the top of the Hot 100 for the second week in a row is Cheap Thrills by Sia featuring Sean Paul, which, yeah, still feels weird to say, even though the song continues to have big sales, gains on YouTube and streaming, and ever so slowly shrinking airplay momentum. The big news this week came from our brand new number 2, Cold Water by Major Lazer featuring Justin Bieber and Mia. And let's make it clear, the song has a real shot for number 1. Huge airplay momentum, dominant streaming and sales, and even a well-timed YouTube smash. I think it might have just missed the top, really, thanks to Major Lazer being the main name on the track, not quite having the same recognition that Justin Bieber has, at least in the US. It'll be curious to see if the airplay momentum can hold up against the sales that will inevitably slip a little bit, but for the meantime, it shoved back One Dance by Drake featuring Kyle and WizKid down to number 3, which again, it might have happened anyway because even despite dominant streaming, it's been slipping on airplay and sales, and I'm not sure how much longer it's gonna hold up, especially considering the rumor that there's gonna be no video whatsoever. And considering This Is What You Came For by Calvin Harris featuring Rihanna is still holding steady at number 4 with strong YouTube, consistent airplay momentum, and solid streaming, if kinda shaky sales, it might fall even harder. Granted, it's not as bad as Can't Stop the Feeling by Justin Timberlake, which slid down to number 5 despite having the sales thanks to airplay and freefall and consistently rough streaming. And that pushback Don't Let Me Down by the Chainsmokers featuring Daya down to number 6, which might have happened anyway also, with even weaker sales and collapsing airplay and streaming. Now, Ride by 21 Pilots is not falling apart even though it's back at number 7. It still has airplay momentum and not precisely healthy sales or streaming, but it's mostly holding together. And that might as well be a similar story for Needed Me by Rihanna, which is clinging to strong streaming and a surprising amount of airplay to make up for its weak sales, and even with that, it was pushed back to number 8. Then there's Send My Love to Your New Lover by Adele, which actually picked up a position to number 9 thanks to consistent airplay and sales. Without streaming, I don't really see it getting any higher, but with so much weakness above it, who can tell? And following my predictions, at number 10, we've got Panda by Desiigner, where lousy sales and ever-shrinking airplay means it's gonna be gone probably as early as, I say, next week. And on that note, our losers and dropouts. A lot of the latter category this week, but most of them you could have predicted. Lost Boy by Ruth B, Never Forget You by Zara Larsson and MNEK, Body by Dreezy featuring Jeremiah, and thankfully, No by Meghan Trainor all exited at the end of their run, with both Ophelia by the Lumineers and Child's Play by Drake exiting prematurely. Knowing the Lumineers, Ophelia will probably rebound and be back in a week or so, and we can all hope in a just God that will ensure that Child's Play will not come back. And on that fortunate note, most of our bigger rivals from last week also lost hard. Rise by Katy Perry fell down to 43, Make Me by Britney Spears featuring G-Eazy fell even harder to 52, and the disappointing Vice by Miranda Lambert stumbled back to 61. The other two drops a little bit tougher to explain. Lights Come On by Jason Aldean slid down to 69, a shade earlier than you would otherwise expected to see it drop off, and Wherever I Go by One Republic just collapsed altogether down to 73, which I can only assume happened because the song really isn't any good, but hey, you never know, you can't judge the taste of the public these days. Now, our gains and returning arrivals, on the other hand, they make a fair bit more sense. In the latter category, Father Stretch My Hands Part 1 by Kanye West featuring Kid Cudi rebounds yet again up to 94, bringing with it No Money by Galantis up to 93, a song that I really wish I liked a lot more than I do, but really should be a bigger summer song regardless. Instead, our gains in that category are Love by Tory Lanez continuing up to 50, What You Mean I by Day Day getting some traction off its debut last week to 84, and Sucker for Pain by Lil Lil Wayne and his associated posse rising up to 64, likely picking up some traction off the hype lead up to Suicide Squad that frankly has had a lot more staying power on the charts than I think anyone could have expected. We'll talk a little bit more about this later. Hell, considering how much this has impacted the charts, I might even review the movie. But until we get to that point, let's talk about our new arrivals. Starting off with number 100, Castaway by the Zac Brown Band.
We're gonna have some fun tonight. Just like the other one, make it a double rum. We're gonna cast away tonight.
Well, I could have predicted this release, especially right in the middle of summer, although that's a part of me that questions why this was chosen as the single. I might have liked the Zac Brown Band's genre experiment Jekyll and Hyde far more than most critics, but this song was not one of the reasons why. Also because it's territory that this band has gone into far too many times before. Now, let me stress that I take this over, say, Thomas Rhett's absolute abomination Vacation. At least Castaway plays primarily in ramshackle territory with loose acoustics, organ, reggae-inspired guitar work that's frankly far better than it has any right to be. Even some fiddle here. Hell, compared to so much of the reggae that has clogged up the charts this year, the Zac Brown Band's brand of it is actually pretty damn likable. It at least sounds organic. The issue that comes is in terms of content, and that's extremely lightweight. Better than Knee Deep, but not better than either Jump Right In or Toes. And there's a part of me that wishes they could have released Dress Blues, that they want to play a little bit more to organic country, which is coming back into vogue, or even Tomorrow Never Comes if they wanted the single that Beautiful Drug never was. But if I'm being completely honest, nah, I really can't hate this. It's pretty likable. I'll take it. Honestly, it's a pretty damn good song. Number 98, Middle of a Memory by Cole Swindell.
Why'd you have to go then, baby? In the middle of the glow of a neon light, it shoulda, coulda, woulda been the night of our lives. Girl, it ain't right, no. How you gonna leave me right in the middle of a memory?
And speaking of artists who don't know good singles that are staring them right in the face, well, okay, at least Cole Swindell released the title track of his sophomore album, but he could have followed up with Broke Down for an easy radio win, or maybe No Can Left Behind if he wanted to pivot towards more traditional country territory. Instead, Middle of a Memory plays it very safe. Long, languid guitar and steel guitar tones blended with a beat that's probably thinner and more synthetic than it should be, especially when the backing vocals come through. And yet, as I said when I reviewed You Should Be Here, the surprising strength of that album was really how it should be considered the last bro country album. And that song works by playing to those misconnections and unfinished stories. And while I don't really think Cole Swindell has emoting as well as he needs to make the song have a lot of deeper impact, I like that it doesn't have a lot of anger or frustration, just kind of melancholy that the hookup didn't materialize, which actually gives the writing a little bit more weight than you would expect. Again, it's not a great song and it's not better than the title track, but most days, I'll take it. Number 97, It Don't Hurt Like It Used To by Billy Currington. You know, it's taken 6 months since Billy Currington released this as a single for it to reach the Hot 100, which doesn't particularly surprise me, given how utterly forgettable the majority of his last album, Summer Forever, was. An album that I barely remembered after I reviewed it last year, and one I don't remember now. Now, to be fair, this was one of the better songs from that album, with a solid breezy groove with buzzy guitars and sandy live drums, but as when I reviewed the album, I've always found the content a little bit questionable, specifically the mood. It's a song about getting over an ex, and while he's not totally there, it doesn't hurt like it used to, and that's reason to celebrate, I guess. I don't know, to me, having gone through a breakup rather recently comes as a little bit lacking in class to play everything so broad, but then again, Billy Currington has never been one for subtlety. I do see the need and niche that the song fills, and while I mostly like it, I'm not entirely on board, so take it or leave it. Number 91, This Girl by Kungs and Cookin on 3 Burns. another world hit finally crossing over to the Hot 100, and for good reason, because this song really is good. The big horns playing off the steady bass and guitar rollick with the touches of organ, and while I feel it might not have the same groove on the instrumental interludes, it's still ridiculously catchy, and the blurred over yet soulful vocals from Kylie Otis are incredibly solid, giving the song some solid pathos as she deflects the gifts and the attempts to buy her love when she's just looking for real affection. Yeah, I can't say it's entirely unique, but Kung's remix of the original Cookin on 3 Burners song works really well, so I can definitely dig this. Damn good song, wanna hear more. Number 89, Pussy Print by Gucci Mane featuring Kanye West.
Poking out just like a pussy print. Pussy print. Pussy print. My pockets bulging, poking out just like a pussy print. Pussy print. Pussy print. My pockets bulging, poking out just like a pussy print.
And right from that, we get a song where Gucci Mane brags that his pants are so tight from so much cash in his pockets that they make a bulge like a vagina, or as Gucci Mane so eloquently calls it, a pussy print. If that was the only thing wrong with this song, it'd be plenty. But then you put in the bass swamped out minimalist synth against your standard trap beat from Mike Will Made It that's way too dark to be altogether likable, or how Gucci Mane uses mispronunciation and still makes lazy bars that rhyme with themselves to talk about nothing beyond your standard bargain barrel luxury rap, or how Kanye drops one of his laziest and least creative verses in a while that's barely worth mentioning. This can even be interestingly sleazy beyond just ugly and soulless. The sort of song that makes you wonder why the hell anybody wanted this guy back in the first place. Next. Number 88, One Night by Lil Yachty.
I just want you for the night. I know you want this for life. Taking pictures with all my eyes, but I can't have no wife. I just want you for the night.
But then again, at least Gucci Mane and Kanye West can bring something of an edge to their material, something that Lil Yachty fails embarrassingly flat at even trying. Hell, when it even comes to this auto-tune mumbling, at least Future has the excuse of pitch black production, occasionally hard-hitting beats, and nihilism. Lil Yachty can't even take it that far. Glossy synth and your standard trap beat not having anything close to atmosphere, with ugly auto-tune multi-tracking that somehow makes Lil Yachty sound even worse. And of course, the content is completely empty. Standard hookup and then trying to push the girl away once she wants commitment, even though on the first verse it's implied that she spent 2 years with this girl at hotels. Now apparently this girl screwed his entire crew, so I would kind of understand why he might not want her around nowadays. But here's my question: why in the nine hells would she want to be with him? Again, the laziness here is pathetic. The vocal layering is god-awful, there's no passion or edge, and the lyrics and attitudes are completely unattractive and mindless. Skip this. Number 81, Back on the Road by Gucci Mane and
Get my
Drake.
jewelry out to save, cause I'm back on road.
Yeah.
I still do these hoes the same when I'm back on road. If you wasn't there for me when I was all alone, then bitch don't expect no love.
And now we get our second Gucci Mane debut, and honestly it's barely better than the last one. You get Drake on the hook and you don't let him have a verse on a song that barely lasts 2.5 minutes? You have a woodwind melody on your hook that's so thin and barely followed by anything in the verses except an ugly nasal film running through everything? At least Gucci Mane is trying a little bit harder here on the verses, mostly through your standard brag verses that really aren't anything all that special. The entire song just feels thin to me, more of an abbreviated announcement that Gucci Mane is out of jail and is willing to plug up radio with more forgettable mediocrity than anything else. Again, why did anybody like this guy in the first place? Because I'd skip this. Number 72, Hit or Miss by Jacob Sartorius.
We are good, baby, we alright, so let's not worry about tomorrow. No. We are good, baby, we alright, let's not worry about tomorrow. No. We are good, baby, we alright, so let's not worry about tomorrow. No. We are good, baby, we alright.
And you know, there's a part of me that sees a certain amount of irony that with all the big hype behind Gucci Mane's big comeback, he's now out of jail, he's still charted behind musically star Jacob Sartorius and his second single. Now, truth be told, I thought this kid's charting career was over with Sweatshirt, given how much it got panned for its god-awful production, and the fact that this kid was clearly shoved out without any sort of vocal training. But now he's got a single that's even bigger, and to be honest, it's not terrible. No, it's not good either. The auto-tune is gratuitous. Whoever told this kid he should rap needs to be flogged, especially with such childish lyrics. The stuttered cymbals on the post-chorus are annoying as hell, and the trend of hitting on someone before you even know their name, it needs to stop incredibly soon, but at least the song is listenable, most thanks to the production. Hell, with a choppy horn-like squonk of the synth playing against the percussion, you might even mistake Jacob Sartorius for the very, very poor man's John Bellion. And I'll say this about Sartorius, he at least sounds like he gives a damn about the music he's making, which is more than little Yachty could ever say. But in the end, it's not like it's gonna stick around, so I could really care less about this. Most of the time, I'd skip it. Number 67, Purple Lamborghini by Skrillex and Rick Ross.
Ain't no mercy. Got that purple Lamborghini lurking. Ain't no mercy, ain't no mercy. Got that purple Lamborghini lurking. Rose.
You know, the more I think about this combination, the less sense that it makes at all. Sure, it both picked up mainstream popularity around the turn of the decade to real diminishing returns around 2014 before trying to repair their reputations, but they play in very different lanes. Say what you will about Rick Ross, at least he would choose beats that with some more opulence and bombast, which seems to run contrary to everything that Skrillex has ever done, even in his Justin Bieber backing sellout years. But for the Suicide Squad movie, they've teamed up for this bombastic anthem, and the weird thing is that I simultaneously like and dislike this song probably more than I should. Say what you will about Rick Ross's content, which in the second verse really falls back into his overblown drug kingpin material, but he at least tries to reference the characters of the movie in the first verse with bars that actually connect, which is more than Suckers for Pain ever tried to do. But here's the thing, for as much as this song references the Joker's car, it's not actually a purple Lamborghini, but a Vador G35, and that mismatch is kind of hard to overlook. It kind of disrupts the entire song. But okay, what about the production, where Skrillex actually brought the huge horns and the hard-hitting howls that careen off the trap beat surprisingly well, at least until you realize that most of the low end of the mix is completely empty, almost unfinished here, and that makes the already thin-sounding horns feel all the more chintzy and plastic. Look, I appreciate the energy and bombast that Rick Ross is certainly trying harder than most of the hip-hop that has charted this summer, but as it is, this reminds me way too much of that Hungry Ham song that Skrillex produced for A$AP Ferg, and while this is better, it's only decent, and really, this had the potential to be great. Number 46, Timmy Turner by Desiigner.
The kid everybody rockin'. You know I'm the song to find if I bet you BT. How they watch you fucking no BT riding for Wally. Kid everybody walkin'. Know I'm the song to find it. Timmy Turner.
Okay, so let's establish right out of the gate that whoever is managing Desiigner's career is doing it very badly. Let's put aside the obvious copycat in all this. At least Desiigner isn't as relentlessly nihilistic as Future can be, and let's focus on the rollout over the past few months. Double XL freshman list with an incomprehensible freestyle, the mixtape New English that might as well have been an album sampler that could barely compose a coherent thought, let alone a song, and now this, his next big single for that upcoming debut album that was adapted from that incomprehensible Double XL freestyle. And if I'm being brutally honest, I don't hate this at all. In fact, I actually might like this more than Panda. That distant swell, the gothic bombast of the piano. If you just kept that shrill, squealing synth off the track, I'd have endorsed this instrumental entirely. It hits pretty hard, especially when it switches into the major key for the final chorus of that thicker synth. It sounds pretty good. And yeah, again, the big drawback to this is Desiigner, who isn't saying anything remotely interesting in his mumbling, futuresque blur of autotune and sloppy bars. But if you actually decode a little bit, you'd hear a rapper under tremendous pressure to do anything for the fame, especially when that path is taking him straight to hell, and he's very conscious of that. Hell, if Desiigner actually had a little bit more narrative ambition or technical writing skill, he could have taken this in an interesting and less scattershot direction, until you realize that at the end of the day, he got there by continuing to bite another rapper's flow and voice, with only visceral ad-libs adding any sort of distinction. It's not terrible, but man, Designer's got a ways to go before he wins me over, because honestly, this is not as good as I'd like it to be. And finally, number 2, Cold Water by Major Lazer featuring Justin Bieber and Mew. And now now we've got that big one. The big hit that my guess will probably be Justin Bieber's newest ticket to #1. Bringing along the proven combination of Major Lazer and Mia along with them, which, if you remember last year in Billboard Breakdown, that song they did, Lean On, wasn't exactly something I liked. Yeah, Lean On's grown on me since, but I never really liked Mia's inflection, and the rattling blur of synth really wasn't enough to hook me in until DJ Snake's solo smashed through and made the song work. So switch out DJ Snake for Justin Bieber and you get, honestly, I'm not really quite sure. I like the liquid guitar anchoring the melody courtesy of Ed Sheeran, but follow it with those buzzy blocks of synth and Major Lazer's standard skitter percussion to match the choppier beat, and I'm not quite sure it comes together as well as it could, especially considering the warbling layers over Justin Bieber and Mia's vocals trying to blur it all together, especially with that drum sample right before the chorus. The lyrics, they're fine when I guess it's focusing on two people supporting each other in a rough spot, but I'm also left feeling that Mia could have been afforded a little bit more to do beyond just a bridge where she plays that damsel in distress. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not a bad song, but it's really missing that killer element for me to really drive it home the same way that DJ Snake's solo hits worked on Lean On. And that song never really hits that crescendo and build up effectively, especially in comparison to, say, what Kungs did with This Girl this week. Now, look, this isn't bad, but honestly, in my opinion, not all that great either. I don't really care a lot about it. So overall, I want to rate this week higher because it probably deserves a little better because of some decent country near the bottom, but man, there was a lot of crap here. For the worst, it's One Night by Lil Yachty. That's gonna take it, with Gucci Mane and Kanye snagging dishonorable mention for Pussy Print. As for the best, you know, I'm not saying that it's substantial, but between some great vocal harmonies and some solid organic instrumentation, I'm actually gonna give the best to Castaway by Zac Brown Band, with This Girl by Kungs featuring Cookin on 3 Burners snagging the honorable mention for just having some real groove to it. Just grew on me a lot. Either way, the second half of the summer looks like it's getting a little bit more interesting. So let's see where we're gonna go next. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown on Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.